What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a brand new video. Today, we're going to be discussing some things that I haven't had a chance to discuss in the past week or so. Some interesting things to do with DC. There is some news that I haven't covered as well with regards to upcoming DC projects. As usual, there's a bit of confusion out there with the DCU. There's some things about Blue Beetle, some other little tidbits about Aquaman that I haven't had a chance to talk about. Just overall, want to discuss a few things with you guys. I definitely want your opinions down in the comments below, especially on some of the things we're about to get to right at the beginning. But before we do, would really appreciate a like on this video. Consider sharing it. If you missed out on my video yesterday, if you're into the Batman canon, don't forget there is a Riddler Year 1 prequel to the Batman, and issue 5 got super deep into the days leading up right to the very beginning of the movie. But first up, what I want to talk about is Blue Beetle, because we have here from Discussing Film them saying Warner Brothers execs considered delaying Blue Beetle to next year, but ultimately decided against it. Now, this is a bit of a sticky situation. I don't even know really where to begin. I think you, as well as I, are very aware that Blue Beetle doesn't seem to have like a massive interest in it. Like, don't get me wrong, shout out to the hashtag Blue Beetle Battalion out there. Even Sholo Marduenia has given them a shout out for promoting the movie, because obviously right now, Sholo Marduenia can't, or even any of the cast obviously can't promote the movie. They won't be able to do interviews when the movie releases. You know, there's typical sometimes interviews on YouTube when they, I don't know, go on Hot Ones or something like that. All kinds of things, right? Of course, they're not allowed to do that with the writer's strike, SAG-AFTRA now getting involved, and it is extremely important to bear in mind that without the labor of the writers and actors that are currently on strike, we wouldn't be getting any of the things that we know and love. So it goes without saying, it's an extremely important thing that's going on right now. Very critical, but at the same time, even before this started happening, and when SAG-AFTRA got involved to strike in solidarity with the writers, Blue Beetle was dwindling with the marketing. People wondering where the heck is the second trailer. And all while I think the second trailer did a better job, there's a big discussion around the film in general being like, but am I gonna go see it? That's what a lot of people are thinking. Some of you guys say you really like the look of it, you will be going to see it, but some of you have said, nah, it just looks like another typical superhero origin story. That's not to say that I'm not interested in it, but I might wait to watch it on digital or something like that, right? Just like what a lot of people are doing right now with the Flash movie. But what I want to pose to you down in the comments below with this information that Warner Brothers executives considered delaying it to next year, but have ultimately decided against it. Do you think that they should have done that? Or do you feel like it wouldn't have really made so much of a difference? Because when I first heard about it, I was like, oh man, would that have been a better choice? But then again, you know, you think of even things like the Flash movie. Now, granted, that had some other things working against it. People still didn't even show up to that movie with the crazy marketing that had. They were marketing Michael Keaton being involved, obviously, Ben Affleck's Batman. They had a Super Bowl trailer. They had like NFL trailers, just so many things. And when you take into account the production and the marketing, which is apparently around $330 million, it just makes you think, well, if people didn't even go see that, they didn't turn up to Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, which made just over $133, $4, $5, or $6 million, which is god-awful. I say that almost every video at the minute. Is Blue Beetle, or was Blue Beetle, an inevitability with regards to would many people have even shown up anyway? So they're probably thinking, if we delayed it, would it have made that much of a difference? So we may as well release it when we plan to, and that is August 18th. So let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Do you think they should have delayed it, or do you kind of agree that they decided not to and, yeah, just release it when originally planned? Also, one more question. Are you going to see Blue Beetle? Are you looking forward to it? Or are you one of those people in the middle and where it's like, well, I kind of like the look of it, but I might just wait? That's not to say that I'm not interested. Or the third option, nope, don't care, not going to watch it even on digital, let alone in theaters. But this isn't the only Blue Beetle stuff that I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to give my take here because Xolo Maridueña teased some cameos. I believe maybe it was at the Barbie red carpet at the time. Xolo Maridueña teases cameo appearances from other DC characters in Blue Beetle. I think if you're a DC fan, there's going to be more than just one character that you recognize. Now, this has got a lot of people thinking, oh my god, have they secretly put a future DCU character in the movie? Even though the movie was kind of shot a while back, you could argue they could have still done that after the fact. And we've even had big screen leaks here saying, well, during the test screening process, I knew multiple people who saw this film and said there was 0 cameos. The appearances he's hinting to most likely were added after the fact. So again, what I'm trying to get back to here is a lot of fans are assuming, okay, so this could be a DCU character like Booster Gold, but I'm really not so sure. Don't get me wrong, I'll hold my hands up if I'm wrong, but at the same time, I don't think we're going to be or have had any castings for anyone like that would have been done so behind the scenes. For example, as James Gunn said, Batman's casting is miles and miles and miles away. The Booster Gold TV show is a long, long time away. And for those wondering, why am I talking about Booster Gold? It's just a lot of people, given the source material, expected that even if the Blue Beetle movie doesn't do so well, as James Gunn said, he can totally stay on in the DCU and maybe not get another movie. Not that he said that, but he could still appear in pop-up appearances, maybe in the Booster Gold show. So as a result, what if Booster Gold appeared? Now, I think, bottom line, that what Xolo Maridueña is teasing here, I think if you're a DC fan, there's going to be more than just one character that you recognize. I suspect that maybe we could, I don't know if we're going to get flashbacks to Ted Kord, because obviously we don't have the answer as to what's happened to him in this iteration of the canon in the Blue Beetle movie. In the trailers, we've seen the previous Blue Beetle suits, so you could argue that maybe Ted Kord is somewhere out there still, or maybe there's like a recording since they go into his HQ and use his ship and other things, so maybe that's a character you're going to recognize. I just don't think people should get expectations up to be overhyped about some major DCU character that's been casted off the books just to appear in this movie, especially when you have to consider that a lot of people might not even see this movie for a future big DCU casting to debut in, if that makes sense. So I think it's probably just about that, but let me know if you think otherwise or if you agree with me. Now, up next, you may remember at the beginning of the video I teased a bit of DCU confusion. So I wanted to talk about this because I guess, look, I can't blame people because things still aren't incredibly clear. I can't pretend to know for a fact, even though I do feel like I vibe with the situation of what's going on with Creature Commandos and then Waller and then Superman Legacy, how Superman Legacy is the first DCU movie and that's the main exposition kind of status quo of DCU setting up film, but it's still confusing to a lot of people. So this user asked Gunn, so excited James, this is going to be the greatest Superman movie, but what about Nathan's character in the Suicide Squad, TDK, is supposed to be alive? You're rebooting that part? How does it fit with everything? I cannot understand. Can you explain it? I'm confused. Thanks for everything, boss. DC fans are with you. And James Gunn replied, DC Studios movies and canon start with Legacy. Now, as a result, that's got people once again to kind of pivot and be like, so does that mean Creature Commandos and Waller and Peacemaker or whatever, Peacemaker Season 2, are not DCU canon projects? Well, I've understood it that they are, but it's interesting that he said it in this way, especially when we've had James Gunn say on Threads, yes, Blue Beetle, played by the wonderful Xolo Maridueña, and a handful of other characters will continue on in the DCU. But he continues to say, even though the first DC Studios movie is Superman Legacy, the first DC Studios project is the animated TV show Creature Commandos. So Creature Commandos is DCU canon, but again, I have to admit, I don't get why he said DC Studios movies, and then he puts in parentheses here, and canon start with Legacy. Yet he says here, the first DC Studios project is the animated TV show Creature Commandos. So I know some of you are going to be like, well, maybe these are projects that technically aren't DCU canon. It's meant to just tide us by until Superman Legacy. But we know that Peacemaker Season 2, James Gunn is working on that after Superman Legacy. So that's going to be DCU. And he said before that Waller is basically Peacemaker Season 1.5, which tells me that, yes, Waller, as well as Creature Creature Commandos, because there's a Creature Commandos character appearing in Waller, if you didn't know already. Those are DCU as well. It's just it's like a little tornado. Like, no wonder people were thinking, are the general audience not going to be confused by what's going on if they wanted to squint at the projects a little bit further. And we also, to add on top of this, to like kind of, reassure what I've already thought this whole time anyway, Peter Safran said to Vanity Fair, among the recent Superman Legacy castings just before the SAG-AFTRA strike, the good news is, if you've seen nothing that we've done before, you can watch Superman Legacy. So he's saying like, right, look, you don't have to watch everything before. These are the projects that, if you don't care so much, these are the ones you want to watch going into the DCU if you want to understand DCU. So you can watch Superman Legacy. Obviously, it's a DCU, the first DCU properly made movie. But he goes on to say, you can watch Creature Commandos. You can watch Peacemaker Season 2. Obviously, as I just said, it comes after Superman Legacy. And you can watch Blue Beetle. All of that, Safran tells Vanity Fair, we are trying to minimize audience confusion and maximize their enjoyment. I don't know if you're minimalizing audience confusion, because people, as per their tweeting or whatever platform they're reaching out to James Gunn on, they're still confused. So let me know what you think of that. I still look at Creature Commandos as technically the first DCU project, as James Gunn even says himself, is DCU. Blue Beetle is standalone, but that character will be continuing on just in the same way, for example, or should I say Shalomar Duane is carrying on just the same way as Viola Davis will be Amanda Waller in the DCU, the same way that John Cena will be canonized into the DCU as well. A lot of people like to compare this to something like Netflix's Daredevil and how Charlie Cox is still Daredevil in the MCU now. So kind of look at it that way. Okay, so up next, very briefly, I haven't spoken about Aquaman 2 in a while, and I don't know if I'm going to say much different here, but this happened a couple of weeks ago in that Aquaman 2 reshoots confirmed 2 years. 2 years after the film started shooting. So this came from The Hollywood Reporter, where Patrick Wilson recently revealed that he was on the set of Aquaman by saying, Orm is awesome, I was with him last week. And again, this was, the reshoots were a couple of weeks ago. And it's just crazy to me in terms of how much this movie has been reshot. We have heard through test screenings that it's not been received positively at all. Now, naturally, that is a normal process. You test screen it to see how the audience respond. You try and pad it out in certain areas that usually infers reshoots, but we've had this a bunch of times. Originally, from what we knew, other than maybe some other reshoots, it was surrounding the original DCEU direction, because Michael Keaton was staying around. You all know about the Batgirl movie. That would have been after the Flash reset, but then it's like, oh no, wait, the release dates have shifted again, so Ben Affleck now needs to be in the movie because it doesn't make sense for Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne to be in it. So we got those photos of Ben Affleck and Jason Momoa, but then that got scrapped. But now, at this point in time, Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck are no longer staying on in the future of DC. So I guess that was completely scrapped. But even way beyond that, to like where we're kind of at now a few weeks ago, they're still reshooting it in other areas. Now, obviously, there's no mega specific details on what they're reshooting, but this movie seems to be like a crinkled piece of clothing that they iron out the creases with, but another crease just pops up, another crease just pops up, and it makes me kind of concerned about how well this will do. Now, I would love to pose this question to you guys, because I've been trying to figure this one out in my head. Because of the current state of how general audiences don't seem to be going to the cinema as much, even not just for DC movies, because obviously we've spoken enough about The Flash, Shazam, and other movies like Black Adam, which still made more money than The Flash, but didn't do as well as it wanted to do. We have like Indiana Jones and various other movies which just, hundreds of millions of dollars into it, including marketing, and not getting the return that the studios wanted from it, obviously, right? So with Aquaman and just maybe the lack of interest in Blue Beetle, do you think that when this movie finally comes out in December, people will be interested? Now, people often say, but the first movie made over $1 billion. Maybe that will stay in the general audience's minds. And if they enjoyed the first movie, enough people went to see it in that it made over $1 billion, maybe they'll see the second one. But maybe not. Maybe the current state of things with the lack of interest, that will knock on to Aquaman 2. Not only that, what you have to bear in mind is when that movie comes out, word of mouth will get around in terms of what certain reviewers are saying, certain outlets. And since it's been struggling so much in test screenings, constant reshoots, again, 2 years after the movie was even starting shooting, maybe that will put people off. So maybe Aquaman 2 just might not do that well when you just kind of like zoom out and look at the situation of everything. There's multiple kind of topics here to apply to it. And it's like, oh. And maybe people are thinking this anyway. Like the last DC movies, they're going to come out, maybe not do so well. Then we're going to have a bit of a break, excluding Joker, when that releases in October next year. And DC kind of just needs that break anyway, going into the DCU. And there's already, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of excitement about the upcoming DCU Superman Legacy and stuff, but there's also a lot of naysayers out there who aren't remotely interested in the direction. So most people kind of agree that a breather needs to happen. But is there going to be enough interest in the remaining films? I mean, we've already covered Blue Beetle, but what about Aquaman 2? What do you guys think? And let me know your own thoughts. Like, are you going to see it? Do you think your friends are going to see it? Is the interest going to be there? Now, lastly, for this video, this is some news that came out around a week or so ago, and it surrounds Pom Klementieff and the DCU. Now, she was asked in an interview with regards to James Gunn's DC, are there any characters that you would love to get your hands on? And she says, well, I'm not going to tell you which character. Now we've been talking about it, and there's like one specific character that he's thinking of. And I think it would be really, really awesome. It would continue doing action too, so it's exciting. Now, I would really actually like Pom Klementieff in the DCU in some kind of role. I know this has been spoken about for a little while, but I saw the latest Mission Impossible movie recently, and I thought she was really, really good in it. I actually haven't seen her in too many things outside of Guardians of the Galaxy, so it was quite interesting getting the chance to see her in a bit of a different role. And when I was watching Mission Impossible, I knew this information in my head at the time, and I was like, okay, I can actually really, really see this. She was a really badass character in the movie. Now, a lot of people are speculating which role she could play in the DCU, which specific character, as she says, James Gunn is thinking of. And some are mentioning what if she's in the Authority. Some are talking about this rumored Korean Huntress project, and Pom Klementieff's mother is Korean. So you never know, James Gunn may have a project for her sometime down the line of projects, or maybe she pops up in another project in the DCU, because right now we have half of the DCU Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters announcements. There's a bunch more projects to come. So Huntress isn't or hasn't been announced for the current lineup, but again, we have no idea what could be coming. I mean, we have some idea and speculation that we've done on the channel, but let me know if you think she could be in a current project that has been announced, or do you think it is for something like the rumored Korean Huntress project? Or if you think it's for something else entirely, let me know who you would like Pom Klementieff to play in the DCU. Again, if you haven't seen Mission Impossible, I was, not that I ever thought that she wasn't decent, it's just I'm used to Mantis. So when I saw her against Tom Cruise in the movie, I was like, wow, okay, I would be very happy to have you in some future role in the DCU. And maybe I could speculate about that some more in another video. But let me know your fan cast for the characters that she could play down in the comments. But that is mainly everything that I wanted to discuss in today's video. It's a bit more of a retrospective-y kind of news video and discussion. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything discussed. Let me know your ideas. If you got this far in the video, I'd really, really appreciate a like. Consider sharing it on Twitter, or if you're on Instagram, Threads, follow me there as well. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for watching me today. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.